Hey everybody, so today we are going to be talking about Darius, because Darius got buffed in the last patch. I'll go over that in 1 second. He got buffed in the last patch, and this patch he is doing very, very good. I'm not going to say he's the best top laner, but he is certainly very high up there right now. I don't believe Darius was actually so bad in the last patch. I think most Darius players are just inting themselves to death with terrible, terrible item choices. Now, after this section here, we're going to show some gameplay, and I'm just going to talk kind of about Darius right now. I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the champion, how to play him, what to do, what makes a good and bad Darius, right? After this, I will more specifically go over the item builds. I'll pull out the client. I'll show it right in front of you. So if you want to do runes and you want to do items, that's more in the future. For now, I'm just going to show you my games of Darius, and we're going to talk about them. So, what's up with Darius? Why is Darius doing good right now, and why is he doing significantly better than people want to admit? Well, Darius is a champion who's always excelled at the mid to high level. At the low ranks, he tends to do a little bit worse than other good champions. At the mid to high ranks, like your emerald to your diamond, to your low masters, around that kind of hump area, he tends to do quite good. Then into challenger, he can sometimes fall off again, but if you're good at him, you can carry him easily into challenger. But that's just kind of where he's always been. Now, the problem is many people have been way too stubborn and stupid with Darius's builds. To be blunt, Darius has 2 items right now that allow him to spike really hard at the 2 to 4 item level instead of the 1 item level. What I mean by that is in the past, Darius would spike really hard at 1 item, and then he would kind of slowly fall off from there. But right now, Darius can, he doesn't spike super hard at 1 item. He obviously can if he's ahead, obviously. But at that 2 to 3 to 4 item mark, he can just start taking off and actually just start completely taking over games. Why is that? That's because Riot changed the bruiser items to allow Juggernauts to scale better. The first is Steric's Gauge. Steric's Gauge now has 20% tenacity on it. For a champion who does not like to be stunned, like Darius, 20% tenacity means a heck of a lot. That's reduced duration on every little bit of crowd control thrown on you other than knockups, which is like half of crowd control. So. But the second one is Dead Man's Plate. A lot of people don't know that Dead Man's Plate was absolutely terrible last season. This season, it's showing up a lot as is one of the best items on a lot of different champions. Why is that? Dead Man's Plate lost the slow. Did you know it had a slow? You probably forgot, because basically every champion that uses Dead Man's Plate had a slow anyway, and because it procs on your first attack, it tends to mean that the slow got completely invalidated. Most champions would go Stridebreaker and Deadman's, and so the slow just overrided each other, or would be like Darius, where his first attack's slow anyway, so it didn't really matter that Deadman's Plate had a slow. In return for moving that slow, they gave Deadman's Plate a 25% slow resist. That's right, 25% slow resist on Deadman's Plate. That is enormous. In addition, they added some runes with the current update, where you can get 10% tenacity and slow resist on runes as well. These things lead to Darius being significantly harder to kite, and it gives Darius players way more options in how to teamfight. Instead of being permanently kited around in every single teamfight, they now have the ability to actually get into range and to actually play the game. Shocking, I know. When Darius can actually play the game, he tends to scale significantly better, back like how he used to, like 5 years ago, before, there were so many slows and stuff that he couldn't really teamfight after the early game. So anyway, Dead Man's Plate gives you 25% slow resist, Steric's Gauge gives you 20% tenacity, and there are a lot of tank items. In fact, I would currently say that Darius's most the biggest skill expression in Darius right now seems to be building your character correctly. Most Darius players seem to actually just lose to the shopkeeper overall. When I look at the item builds, I can think of no other champion that has as many troll builds as Darius. He basically, boy oh boy oh boy, he basically has so many troll builds right now. Here, I'm gonna check this out just for my own thing. So here's the thing. His best build right now is actually his most played build, Trinity into Stoics into Deadman. Now again, I'll get into that later if you want me to visually show you. But right now, the pick rate on that build, I kid you not, is a mere combined with Steric's into Deadman's or Deadman's into Steric's. It's only 26% of Darius players. That's right. only 26% of Darius players are actually building him correctly right now. Many of them are randomly detouring into terrible items for him, like Sundered Sky, which I'm not saying is a useless item, it's just not as good. Or Titanic Hydra, which actually, in my opinion, is a bad item on him. Or Distance, which also, in my opinion, is a bad item. Or Force of Nature, which, wow, you might not believe me on this one, but I think Force of Nature is also a bad item on Darius. With so many people failing to the shopkeeper and so many people not actually knowing how to build the champion properly, it seems the highest skill cap on Darius right now is knowing how to actually build the champion. Now that means because there are a lot of tank items in the game right now that are niche in that they are very powerful if you build them in the right situation. There are some like Jack Show that are just generally good overall, but if you build a niche tank item into the situation where it's good, you can get monstrously powerful. Throughout this video, there is a bug that might be in some of these clips. It does seem to be a visual bug that does not impact the game. Canik Rookern does seem to have a visual bug wherein if like some of your Canik Rookern shield is broken, but the shield itself is still intact, like if half the shield is damaged and then you refresh it, sometimes if you have something like Spirit Visage, it will add the entire shield visually back. Now you only have the shield that you should have, but visually, like you'll have like 40% of your health bar as a magic shield, when in fact with Spirit Visage, you're only getting like 25% of it shielded. Do you understand what I'm trying to say here? The item works properly. It's just visually it screws up pretty often, and you can have like half your health bar in a magic shield. I've seen that happen in some of these clips. It might show up. I just want to put that out there. It's not actually doing that. Okay. Okay. At any rate, so I guess when I played Darius and I was actually building him properly, and I'm pretty good with items, you know that, I noticed, oh my god, this champion is so outrageously powerful right now, and he scales so hard. Compared to a champion like Aatrox, who I'd play otherwise, even compared to a champion like Mordekaiser, Darius just scales. He scales so well right now. He is such a powerful champion, and in particular, here's another thing. Trundle, Darius stomps on Trundle. Now, will really good Trundles manage to beat me on Darius? Maybe eventually, like I they do so. But for now, the Darius Trundle matchup is pretty good for Darius, and that means that Trundle, who is a very popular, very powerful pick right now, makes Darius an even better pick because he's one of the few champions who can absolutely destroy Trundle. Okay, so we have a champion who does very good into a very powerful champion. We have a champion who, once you actually know how to build them, can do very powerfully. Kitty is playing with her toy in the background. You probably hear her doing that. You can actually see her. She's staring at me because she's literally mid-play. She has her arm. Okay. She's so silly. Okay. Anyway, so at this point, let's go look at the items then. What do I recommend you build on Darius? What do I think would be a good build for Darius? Runes, items. What do I think is doing good? What is working well for me? Let's go talk about that right now. Okay, let's talk Darius items. Okay. First up is, what item do we rush on Darius? Well, you have two choices, really. You've got Stridebreaker and you've got Trinity Force. Unfortunately, as of right now, as of me making this video, this is entirely incorrect. Stridebreaker is not very good. I don't think it's like unplayably terrible anymore since they buffed it, but I'm gonna be blunt. Here's the issue with Stridebreaker, right? Once again, and I talked about this in my patch video, you get 10 damage and 100 HP, right? In return, you also cost 300 less gold, right? So like from that, you're probably thinking, oh my god, that's so much a better stat stick. 100 HP, 10 attack damage, 333 less gold, more easily available movement speed because you get the movement speed on damage instead of on attack, right? So like, you think that's really good. Here's the issue. Stridebreaker has 20 ability haste, which is invaluable considering how little ability haste is on items these days. And it also gets the Spellblade effect. The Spellblade effect allows you to push turrets, which gives you flexibility, because it means that if no one can really 1v1 you, you can just quickly annihilate turrets. And in addition to that, you can just annihilate turrets out from underneath other champions. You can just, I don't know if I had a clip of that. I've constantly just destroyed turrets right next to an opposing champion because I only need like 5 seconds to do it with a Trinity Force. Remember, Darius's armor pen on his E applies both to champion damage and to turret damage. That means that yes, you get those Trinity Force procs with armor pen against turrets. Quite good. Demolishes turrets. Also demolishes champions. As you might imagine, 40% armor pen with massive base damage makes those Trinity Force procs go gajoom and obliterate champions. Now, Stridebreaker, I have seen moderate success if I go it into a very kitey comp, but the problem is Stridebreaker is only good when you're in range, so it's kind of like a win more. It's like once I'm in range, now I can be in range. Like it's just, to me, it's just not as good. Stridebreaker is just not as good as Trinity Force, in my opinion. So when it comes to first item, 9 out of 10 times, I just got to say Trinity Force is blatantly your best bet. After that, you get Dead Man's Plate and you get Sterix. Now, once again, let me show this off for you guys. Dead Man's Plate gets unsinkable. The strength of movement slowing effects is reduced. You get minus 25% effectiveness of slows against you. So if a slow hits you for, let's say, 50%, it now only hits you for 37.5%. As you might imagine, that's quite effective on Darius. It lost the slow that it had last season, but again, that didn't affect, like, anything, okay? So Sterix Gauge lost 50 HP but gained 20% tenacity. Sterix Gauge is also much more powerful on this patch due to some changes that I'll go into later, but Sterix Gauge very powerful. So between these two items, you get slow resist, you get tenacity. You can basically just do anything you want with these two items. No one can really stop you. Now, of course, the other one is Koenig Rückern. Now, if you are fighting mages, Koenig Rückern is not a terrible item if you're going second. Like if you're fighting like the triple Mage of Doom comp, right? Some people think, oh, I should go Force of Nature. No. Force of Nature is terrible. I think you go Koenig Rückern. That's just my opinion. If you're fighting a lot of mages, you can just go Sterix second because then you get tenacity, so you can run them down much easier. Because remember, you also get that shield. Sterix Gauge isn't like bad into mages. It's just not as good as potentially Koenig Rückern. But remember, it's got damage and tenacity and that shield. So when you think about it, all you're missing on Sterix Gauge is 80 magic resist, which is, yes, a lot of magic resist. I agree. But when you compare that to tenacity and way more damage, you know, weigh your options here, right? So you can do like Koenig Rückern, Sterix Gauge, Trinity if you're fighting a Giga Mage comp that you need to survive through. So I would say these are probably, from my experience, like your best items. Then, of course, you've got everybody's best buddy, Jack Show. Why are we looking at Jack Show? Because Jack Show gives you armor and magic resist and health, and then after 5 seconds of combat, you get empowered and get even more armor and magic resist. This is obviously proven to be quite capable at keeping Darius alive mid-fight. Remember, his Q heal is now 15% instead of 13%, so he's much more capable of staying alive mid-combat. So Jack Show allows him to continue to thrive mid-combat. So would I say this is going to be your core build? Trinity into Deadman's, into Sterix, into Koenig Rückern, into Jack Show? No, obviously not. You need to look at who you're fighting against. You need to look at what you need. So of course you can go Deadman's Plate. If you're trying to troll your team, because this item is not very good right now, the armor is down to a mere 40. The healing is down to 50% bonus AD. Even on Darius, we're talking like the heal might be as low as like 200. A 200 heal at level 18. That's quite insignificant. I find Death Stance is just, it's one of those items that like it could be good, like 5th maybe, but like it's just, it's not good at all anywhere close to through the game. Okay, so then I've been going Spirit Visage a lot. Spirit Visage, obviously, if you need magic resist but you're not fighting like a Giga Mage team, Spirit Visage still does a lot if you're not fighting a mage right at that moment. So like, let's say I'm fighting a team where I need magic resist, but also I need an item that isn't only magic resist. Spirit Visage. 60 magic resist is still pretty good. 450 HP is good. Healing and shield effectiveness by 25%. That affects your Sterix Gauge. That also potentially affects Koenig Rückern if you have that one. Ability haste. It's very hard to get ability haste these days. And yeah, so your Qs will heal more, your Sterics will shield more. Just overall, a very good item as well. I shouldn't say very good. It's an okay item right now. I've definitely put it to good use, and I've liked it a whole lot. Then, of course, you have your very typical Thornmail. Thornmail and Jack Show go together really good. Thornmail, Dead Man's Plate, and Jack Show. Between these three items, you'll have a lot of armor. Once the Jack Show procs up, you'll have a lot of armor. The Thornmail will be hitting back for like 70 damage on attackers. So it's pretty common once you're like really tanky into the mid game that Jack Show will be chunking away people that are trying to hit you. Then it just generally gives you health and armor and the healing debuff and the damage, and it's just pretty generally good for that. Now, some people have been looking into Frozen Heart. I really haven't been. Darius is like one of the few champions where I don't think Frozen Heart is really that good because, to be blunt, I find most of the time if I run up to an... I thought Frozen Heart was 25% attack speed slow, not 20%. They must have changed it at some point. I don't know. I do patch notes and I still lose track of time sometimes. Anyway, Frozen Heart, I don't really find that good. If I'm next to someone as Darius, the majority of the time, I think I should just be killing them. The only champions that like can be next to me and I'm actually afraid of are like crit melee, like Yasuo, like Yasuo, Yone, that kind of stuff. In that situation, I think Omen generally is going to be better. Minus 30% damage from crits is very heavy. It also affects champions like, you know, the few remaining 80 carries that still build crit, right? Like your Jins, like your Lucians, Caitlyn, stuff like that. Randuin's Omen can be a godsend in keeping you alive. So I think from that regard, you definitely want to keep up Randuin's Omen as like a possibility. And I would say that this is probably going to be the items you're choosing between. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's like 8 items here. You can choose about 5 of them. 6 in a hyper long game, but it will rarely get there. Most of the time, you're going to choose 3 to 4 of them. Most of the time, you're just going to be Trinity, Deadman, Sterix, right? And then the game will probably end at some point at that stage, right? So I would say these are your really good items. These are your very, very good items. On Darius right now, I've had lots of good success with them. As for runes, oh boy. Okay, so I've been you might see my runes here. I've been greeding really hard because I'm a greedy little bastard. Okay, because most people are afraid of Darius baseline. They just see Darius and they avoid him all laning phase. I have kind of been using that to my advantage, and I have been using the fact that no one like limit tests me and checks if I'm actually playing for the early game. Many times I get through this by, you know, just kind of not taking fights and being very sneaky deaky, right? So I have gone the Conqueror, Alacrity, you know, it's Conqueror, Triumph, Alacrity last time. This I would say is your core right here. This I say is your core. You're going to probably go with this no matter what. As for over here, you've got many choices. Unflinching has been seeing some moderate success. Now, I do think Unflinching is actually decent into certain champions. If you're fighting champions like Riven, Unflinching is basically permanently procced. It might as well read you have 2 to 10 armor and magic resist, right? Against certain comps, Unflinching will be permanently procced, okay? And with how much health Darius can stack, Unflinching can do pretty good. Second Wind is also good to surviving champions like Gragas, Karma Top's getting more popular, Quinn, that sort of stuff. Bone Plating is good at surviving champions like Renekton and Riven that are going to try to all-in you and one-shot you. As for these runes, in all honesty, this will probably be your default build. Something like this, probably, I would say. We're going to go the attack speed, the damage, and the health scaling. You can also go with the flat health, but there's so few champions who are actually threatening enough that you're going to have to go with that flat health for the early game that I would just recommend going with the scaling HP. And again, I have done this sparingly to moderate success because I'm a greedy little goober, okay? I have done conditioning and overgrowth and then the double health scaling rune. I have done that into certain matchups where I know my opponent will try to avoid me or at the very least stay away from me. And I have ended up being enormously tanky in the mid-late game. Like, I'm talking freakishly tanky, especially into mages once you have Kaenic Ruckern. Like, if you have this build and Kaenic Ruckern against a mage in the mid-game, like, they're just like, okay, well, now what? Okay, cool, I can't kill him. Like, oh well, right? So, I would say those items maybe not these runes. You probably, if I'm going to be blunt, you're probably more looking at these runes right here, right? But I would say those items, those runes, this champion, build properly, play properly, and you will do very, very good on Darius. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, everybody. Have a great time playing Darius until it would not surprise me if he reaches like 30% ban rate again, but we'll see. So thank you all. Thank you, everybody. And as always, I hope you all have a great rest of your day.